Hey everyone, it's Emily. So recently I was scrolling through Guru Gossip because I'm a sticky beak and I like to know what's going on. I also like to go there to see what kinds of videos people want to see and what bugs people, so I don't do that. Research. We'll call it research. I was doing research on what content people want by reading AuthorTube Guru Gossip pages. And while I was reading, I saw a few things that bugged me. People are, of course, free to have and share their own opinions, but some of the things people were saying honestly made me feel bad. Not as an author-tuber, but as a writer and aspiring author. And I kind of wanted to talk about it, and I guess if people were feeling the same way as me, I want to make them feel better. So I wanted to talk about them and see what others think. Originally, I had multiple points to talk about, but this first section got too long, so I'm splitting it and making a few videos about this particular experience. So here's the first of a few videos of me sharing my possibly unpopular opinions. Also, again, sorry if this video comes off as roboty or weird. I am still getting used to using a script. This is scripted, but hopefully it won't be too frustrating to watch. The first thing that really got to me were a few comments about writers who barely read. Basically, what these people were saying is that writers that don't read often are bound to be shit, and that they're not really into writing if they don't read and aren't fueled by fiction. They then went on to say that they think this is the reason that many indie books read like fanfic, like that's a bad thing, and don't have distinct voice or have very simple prose. They then say reading a lot is how an author finds their voice. Now, I struggle to read a lot. I find it very difficult to find books that I like and books that can hold my attention. Does this mean I'm a bad writer? Absolutely not. I mean, I could be, but I don't know. But I've read some books by people that I know read a lot, or at least they say they do, and they've been absolute shit. So while reading can help with writing in learning how story structure works, tropes that work together, what cliches to avoid, I feel it doesn't help at all with discovering your voice. If anything, I feel like you run the risk of adopting someone else's voice if you read a lot of their work. But I would also like to question, what does this person consider reading? Do comics count? Manga, subtitles on shows and movies, audiobooks? Clearly, they don't think very highly of fanfiction, but doesn't that also count as reading? What should we be reading if not anything we can read? I would also add that just because people read a lot doesn't mean they're reading critically. There are so many people that read for the sake of reading and just enjoy that process enough that they like everything they read. But people also have different tastes in what they like to read. So while I may hate a book, someone else might love that book. It doesn't mean I'm a better writer than them and they're shit because they loved this book I hate. No, because what you read doesn't affect your writing unless you're ripping it off or critically analyzing it for structure, which, let's be honest, probably not many people do. Writers shouldn't only read or feel less for not reading. What you should do is experience stories in whatever manner you see fit, whatever works for you. Writers are just storytellers, same as movie directors, actors, visual artists, musicians. There are many ways to tell a story and to experience one. Personally, I like to experience storytelling through shows and movies the best, and I don't feel as if that's negatively impacted my writing or dulled my author voice. I feel it's kind of elitist to say that all writers must read the written word. Someone followed up that first comment by saying it's strange that people think that you need to read to be a writer is an elitist take. But I don't think it is at all. I think it's elitist to not recognize that inspiration and skill in writing can come from other mediums. But here's a quote from this person's comment. You don't have to read the classics or things you don't want to read. There are literally millions of books out there, so if you can't find anything you like, I would just say you don't like books, so maybe don't write them. But that's exactly why people should write them. They're not finding what they want. That's exactly why I'm writing. I cannot find books that I enjoy. I've tried to read over 20 books in the last 3 years, all in different genres, age categories, and not one of them has worked out. I haven't loved a book to the point of obsession in almost 10 years. So now I've written a book that I would have loved to read because I couldn't find it anywhere. What did I want? I wanted a high fantasy with elements of horror, action, gore, a mature romance between two adults, a strong female character who looks strong, not like a skeleton that can somehow hold their own against a bodybuilder, with no sexual violence or period accurate homophobia, transphobia, or sexism. That's all I wanted. And maybe I could have looked harder, but I don't like shopping online, especially for books. I don't have unlimited money to keep buying books I don't like. And I live somewhere that has very limited availability to books. Not everywhere in the world has access to amazing libraries that have everything, or bookshops that stock indie books, or even every mainstream books that get released. Even our biggest bookshops in Australia don't get half the books American bookshops get. We don't have 2 or 3 story Barnes and Nobles. We have single story Dimmicks or QBDs that are barely bigger than my 180 square meter house. So it's not only elitist, but privileged, and maybe a little ableist. Yes, reading helps, but it's not a strict requirement. But again, maybe that's just my unpopular opinion. I think expecting writers to read as a way to improve is why we have so many of the same books and writers that don't have original voice. Because they're being told if their writing doesn't sound like Tolkien, they're not a fantasy writer. If their writing doesn't sound like Cassandra Clare, they're not a YA writer, and so on. The industry has become, if you don't write like this popular person, you're shit. So personally, I'm all for writers not reading and not being influenced by other writers' styles. I want to read their style. And I feel like that's so hard to find. I also think, mind your fucking business and don't shame people for not reading. Do you think Nora Roberts, who publishes like fucking 5 books a damn year, is reading 50 plus books that same year? Probably not. She's working. Expecting people to have the time to write and read while they're also probably working full-time in another job, maybe have a family, an illness, or something else that could be taking up most of their day, is setting an unhealthy standard, and it's a standard that can put people off doing what they want to do. If you can't tell, this topic really got to me. I had a massive breakdown after reading these comments, and I ended up staying up all night freaking out about how I'm such a shitty writer, I don't deserve to be an author because I don't read much. But fuck you. I wrote a whole damn fantasy book, 152,000 words. That makes me a writer. And I had the time to do that because I wasn't reading. I was getting my own words down, not stressing about how many of someone else's words I was reading. So don't let strangers on the internet, who may or may not be writing themselves, who are probably in a completely different point in their life, in a different living situation to you, tell you how to be a writer or shame you because you do things differently. If it works for you, you're doing it right. And if whoever wrote those comments sees this video, I just want you to know you're welcome to have your opinions and to share them, just like I am. I'm not angry with you or think you're a terrible person or anything like that. I just want you to know that that's not the only way to do things, and sometimes it's not possible for people to do it that way, and you shouldn't shame people for that. So I think I'm going to leave it here before I pick a fight. Feel free to share your opinion on this in the comments below. I just ask that you keep it civil and don't attack anyone for theirs. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. I'd love to have you here. If you would like to keep up with me, you can follow me on Instagram. If you'd like to support me, I have a Redbubble store you can purchase from, or you could buy a copy of A Season of Darkness from Amazon. I have 2 short stories in there and I designed the cover. All the links are in the description. Also linked in the description are some charities. I'd love it if you could check them out and possibly consider donating. Thanks again for watching, and hopefully I'll see you in my next one. Bye.